Today I'm going to be going over which Season 1 character is the best in Black Clover Mobile, and if you find any of this useful then make sure to like and subscribe and enjoy. Okay, so let's kick things off with a kit overview for all the characters, starting off with all their skill 1s. So first things first is Asta's skill 1 called Cross Slash, which is going to be a single target skill, which at a level 1 is going to have a attack percentage ratio of 100%, and then the effects of this skill are if Asta has an active buff on himself, then he has a 50% chance to deal an extra attack to inflict damage equal to 70% of his own attack. And then not only that, he also grants himself a 2% increased damage dealt buff, which will then allow him to proc his extra attack as well, which can stack up to 5 times, allowing him to get a overall damage increase of 10%. Then moving on to Mimosa's skill 1, which is going to be called Plant Energy, which is also a single target skill, and what it does is basically it grants the ally with the lowest HP recovery equal to 120% of her magic attack. And then not only this, she also has a 45% chance to grant a special point increase of 1 special point to an ally whose HP has been recovered by her skill 1. And then finally we have Yami's, which is called Double Strike, which is again also a single target skill, and basically all it is when Yami has 4 or more special points, which is, you can have a total of 8, so when you have at least 4 or more special points, he gives himself an all attack increase of 30%, and then he attacks for some pretty good damage. Now this skill can actually do some really good damage when you're able to proc this, and then when we move on to the skill 2s, you'll see why this becomes a lot better. Now onto their skill 2s. Now starting off with Asta, again we have Wild Dance, which is going to be another single target skill, and basically what this skill does is, before Asta is going to attack, he's going to give himself a level 1 attack increase, which is a pretty good increase considering, it's just 3 buffs already, which is really handy. And then not only that, he has an 80% chance to grant himself a 20% increased mobility buff. Then for Mimosa we have Flower Garden, which creates a flower garden around you, granting all allies HP recovery. Now what this does, it basically just gives all of your allies HP recovery equal to 120% of her own magic attack, so it's just the same as her skill 1 pretty much, but it applies to everyone instead of just one person. Not only this, it does also grant a extend buff duration by 1 turn, and then can be increased to 2 turns if you have a skill page equipped as well to a designated ally that you choose. And then finally it will then grant all allies an increased damage resistance. This is just, it's nothing too crazy, it's whatever, it's just something that affects your blocking stat, and that is pretty much it. Then on to Yami's skill 2, which is called Rose Slice. Now this is the first AoE skill and the only AoE skill of the lot, and basically this is just an AoE skill that does damage, and not only that, it also inflicts block HP recovery on all enemies for 1 turn, and then also can grant 1 special point to himself. So this him granting himself a special point is really useful because it allows you to consistently have a good amount of special points. So not only can you get your ultimates faster, you can also proc the buff of his skill 1 as well. Onto their ultimates or special skills, where starting off with Asta's, his is called Accelerated Assault. Now this ultimate is a very good ultimate, and is a single target ultimate which can grant Asta an extra turn when attacking an enemy whose HP is at least 80% or above. Now this is really good because not only you get an extra turn, but also doing this would also reduce the cooldown of your skill 2, making you so you can get your skill 2 a lot quicker. That is, assuming you had already used it prior to this, but if you hadn't, then what you can then do is use Asta's ultimate on an enemy whose HP is at 80% or higher, then use his skill 2, and then you've got like 3 crazy amounts of damage, and then obviously with his skill 2 giving himself an increased stamina or mobility, then he's going to be even quicker on the speed gauge as well, allowing him to act again to then do a lot of damage with his skill 1. Then we have Mimosa's special skill or ultimate, which is called Dream of Recovery. Now this is a fantastic ultimate because not only does it grant all of your allies HP recovery equal to 180% of her magic attack, it also gives all of her allies an increased defense of a level 2 variant, which is a decent defense increase, allows your team to tank a lot easier. And then not only that, finally she also applies Resurrection to any downed ally, and then restoring their HP up to 30% of their max HP, and then once you get her to, I believe, the LR rating, that will then go up to 50%. Then we have Teacher's Dignity, which is going to be Yami's special skill or ultimate, and this is an ultimate that I don't find too useful outside of PvP, but it is very useful inside of the arena or PvP, as this is a single target ultimate, and what it does is it will reduce the enemy's special points by 3, or can be 4, if you're then able to get it to level 5. And then what it then also does is it's also going to inflict total silence, which stops the enemy from using not only their skill 2 but their ultimate as well. Okay, so now you know exactly what they all do and how they work as characters. what I'm going to do now is I'm then going to rank them from 1 to 10 on 3 different categories. So starting off with Asta, and I think this is an easy 10 out of 10. I think because of his ultimate, giving a load of extra boss damage, as well as his combined attack removing barriers and stuff like that. He's able to move very, very quickly as well and just do a lot of single target damage. I think, yeah, it's an easy 10 out of 10. And when you for example, pair him up with, a character like Charlotte, who's allowed him to act even more, he's just insane. He's very, very good. Then on to PvP or arena rankings, I'm going to give him a 9.5 out of 10 because, although, he is insane and, 9.5 is a very, very insane rating, I think, his health pool is just a little bit too low because it's around like 40,000 in comparison to, some other DPS characters. So it's a very, very low HP pool, meaning, he's, able to be killed very, very easily. So, for that, it's going to deduct a little bit, but either way, he's still very good because if you can get him max duped, then he's so quick and he does so much damage. Now, onto the free-to-play friendly ranking. Now, unfortunately, as good as this Asta is, he is not very free-to-play friendly. Now, I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10 for this because, to start things off, you really, really need some dupes for this guy, which, obviously you can get, through free-to-play means from, when certain events are going to come out in the future. However, once you get him to maxed out, once you get him to 5 dupes, his speed will increase from 103 to 109. Now, this would make him the fastest DPS character in the game, even to this day, I believe. So, yeah, which makes him, not very free-to-play friendly in my eyes. And also the fact that he is a Asta character means that, he doesn't have any magic attack whatsoever. Meaning, he can actually be pretty difficult to build in some scenarios because you're going to have to get pretty lucky with your substats that's on your gears. Then on to Mimosa's rankings, which is going to be a PvE ranking. We're going to start off with, which is going to be a 10 out of 10. As, as I explained before, her resurrect, her, defense increases, her healing output, special point increases are just so good. And, when you get to the late game content, you're going to, realize just how more useful, healers are and how, good they can actually be and, how beneficial they are to your account. Then in terms of PvP rankings, I'm probably going to give her either an 8.5 or a 9. I'm probably going to go for a 9. This one I'm a little bit uncertain on because, her being a healer means she's actually quite slow, which is, not ideal, meaning, if you're facing up against a really powerful Asta or a really powerful Red Yami as well, she can also die pretty easily. And then in terms of if she's actually free-to-play friendly or not, I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10. I'd say, she's pretty free-to-play friendly in terms of how, in terms of building her as it goes, but it's just the only thing is that, being a healer, she's going to require some very niche gears and stuff as well, so, it makes her a little bit more difficult to build as you've got to go out of your way to farm, some pretty niche gear sets. Then finally, we have Yami. We have the blue attacker Yami, and to start things off with his PvE rankings, I'm going to give him an 8.5 out of 10. I don't think I can rate him anywhere near Asta and Mimosa, to be honest, because although he's really good and, he has great damage, he's got AoE damage, he's really, really good. It's just that, Mimosa and Asta in comparison are just way better. And, I feel like, some of his debuffs that he applies, like, blocking healing, as well as, stuff like total silence, aren't necessarily all too useful in PvE activities. So for me, it gives him an 8.5 out of 10, but, I think he basically just doesn't do a job good enough to compare to Asta. Then the PvP ranking, I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. I think this could actually maybe go up a little bit because, I think the mono blue team is going to be very, very powerful at the moment with him, Vengeance, Mars, and Lotus. But, I think it's just on paper. I think, again, his debuffs that he applies of blocking healing is just not very useful. But outside of that, his damage is really, really good. And I think, yeah, he's a very, very strong character in PvP at the moment. Then free-to-play friendly rating is going to be easy 10 out of 10. He's just a regular attacker. You just need to build him with attacking stats. As things like his skill 1 giving an all attack increase means, he can benefit off magic attack and regular attack increases as well, making him just a really easy to build character, making him, really free to play friendly and very, friendly to new players and stuff like that as well. So that's it. Those are all everything to do with these characters. We've gone through their whole kits and also my rankings for those characters in PvE, PvP, and also just how free-to-play friendly they are. So let's start things off with the final rankings of these characters and who I think is actually the best. So I think coming in dead last is going to be the Blue Yami, as, you know, I think as an attacker, he's such a good character, but in comparison to Asta, the job he does just isn't, you know, as good. Then I guess finally, who I think is the best character in season 1 is going to be the red rookie attacker Asta, as, you know, he is just insane. But first of all, let's talk about Mimosa, as she did come in second place. Now, I think, you know, Mimosa is just going to suffer a lot just for being a healer, because, you know, I think a lot, you know, at this point in the game, you're not going to find Mimosa, you know, as useful as, you know, characters like Asta are going to be to your account. So I think that puts her in second place for me, as well as, you know, mainly just the fact that Asta is, you know, necessarily just better in PvP and arena than Mimosa is. But, you know, if that wasn't the case, then yeah, Mimosa would probably be first. And then again, you know, in first place we do have Asta. Now this is in, you know, keeping in mind, you know, him at all these characters at their full potentials, and, you know, how well they can actually perform at their highest potential. Now again, if we were talking about, you know, them at 0 dupes, it's probably Mimosa 1, Asta 2, then Yami 3. But, you know, once you get Asta max duped in arena, he's just an absolute monster. And also in PvE as well, the amount of damage he does to bosses, his utility with removing barriers as well, he's quick, he's so good. He gives himself permanent damage increases as well. You know, you can stack attack very nicely on him with Vengeance, making him even quicker and even stronger. He's just so good, and he can hit so incredibly hard, making him, in my opinion, the best season 1 character. And there you have it. Those were my, I guess, you know, season 1 rankings on who was the best out of them all. Let me know your thoughts of, you know, of my thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!